Welcome back, football fans. Chris Terrell here for Jaeger Bombs Fantasy Sports and DFSR.com to bring you my DFS First Look for Week 14 of the NFL. In this video, I'll be going position by position to bring you a few of my early core plays for DraftKings and FanDuel. Before we get started, let's talk about where you can get access to my content. First of all, you can head over to patreon.com/JaegerBombs and grab an NFL package for $10 a month American, $13.50 Canadian. What that's going to give you is access to the cheat sheet, team matchup and stats, player stats and matchups as well, odds, DraftKings and FanDuel research, prize picks research, primetime, top targets and rankings for primetime showdown slates, top targets for Sunday main slates, defense versus position stats, so much more. It also gives you access to our Discord benefits, members only channels, as well as free trial channels. You can check us out there as well. You can also head over to DFSR.com, and for $29.95 a month, you get access to our projections and optimizer for NFL, NBA, NHL, PGA, and MLB, all for that one price of $29.95. And right now, you can sign up one-time deal, $99 for the next 5 months. You can also be sure to check us out on social media. We're on Facebook, we're on TikTok, we're on Instagram and Twitter. Make sure to search Jaeger Bombs Fantasy Sports there as well. With that, let's jump into this week's picks. So looking at the main slate, after we get by tomorrow night, we've got the Vikings visiting the Steelers. But then once we get into the main slate here, we do have 3 games. Actually, we've got 5 games with a touchdown or bigger spread in that game. In terms of game totals and games that we want to maybe concentrate on for possible high scoring, we've got Buffalo at Tampa Bay, 53.5. Then we've got San Francisco and Cincinnati also in the afternoon. That totals at 49 right now. Those are both close spreads. And then in the morning slate, we've got Kansas City, 9-point favorites over Vegas at the moment, 48 total in that game. And then Dallas is a -4.5 road favorite here going into Washington, 47.5 total. Other than that, we've got some very low totals this week. So for the most part, we're going to want to concentrate on those 4 or 5 games where we have a chance to see the most scoring possible. So let's just jump right in here. Let's talk some quarterbacks first of all. First up for me, Justin Herbert this week going up against the Giants. Surprising that he's only the 5th most expensive quarterback on DraftKings. He's the 3rd most expensive on FanDuel. He's got 300 plus passing yards in 3 straight, 4 of his last 5, and 7 of 12 games on the season. And the 4th highest average per game, 295 passing yards per game. He's also 3rd in touchdowns with 27 on the season. Tougher matchup as the Giants are 8th in DVOA versus the pass and 11th in fantasy points to quarterbacks, but they have struggled against top QBs this season. Some examples are Brady, Mahomes, Stafford, and Dak Prescott. A little bit of a downgrade if Keenan Allen is out. We also heard that Mike Williams has been placed on COVID-19 list as well, so we're going to have to stay tuned for that. It sounded like Allen had a chance to come back in that one, so if either of those play, that would be my top stack. If not, stay tuned for the running back section because I do like Austin Eckler as well. Number 2 QB would be Dak Prescott. Under 2x return last week in a win over New Orleans, which has his price dropping $400 on DraftKings, which is a little bit of a buy low for him. It's his 2nd lowest price on DraftKings for the season. He now gets a plus matchup versus Washington. They rank 30th in DVOA overall and against the pass. They've allowed the 4th most passing yards, 2nd most total yards, and the most fantasy points to QB. All of his weapons, Lamb, Cooper, Gallup, Schultz, Zeke, and Pollard, come into this week without an injury designation. I'd have to look back, but I believe that's the first time this year Dallas those pass catchers haven't had an injury designation, or at least one of them. Finally, we've got Taysom Hill, New Orleans here, going up against the Jets. This is my value QB of the week on DraftKings. I'm not too interested on FanDuel because the price with Prescott is only $400 difference here, so not too interested there. But on DraftKings at $5,600, I'm definitely interested. There's a little bit of risk. He's going through what's called mallet finger. I don't know, I never heard of it called mallet finger, but that's what he's dealing with right now. But his floor that we're looking for comes with his rushing. We've always known that he's not much of a throwing quarterback per se. His floor of around about 10 to 12 designated, designed rushing attempts for him, especially with that finger injury this week. And you're pretty much getting a high-end RB2, low-end RB1 for $5,600 on DraftKings. If he throws a touchdown, that's going to be bonus. If he throws for more than, I would say, even 150 yards, that's going to be a bonus. But what we're looking for is about 80 to 100 rushing yards again, which is a really nice floor at $5,600 on DraftKings. Allows you to pay up for a bunch of running backs, wide receivers, and tight ends if you so choose. The Jets also rank dead last in DVOA defense and 21st in fantasy points against quarterbacks. So that stands out there a little bit as well. All right, transitioning over to the running back position here. First up, hinted at it earlier, Austin Eckler. And I had wrote these notes and put these core plays together before we got the Mike Williams news this afternoon that he's on the COVID-19 list now. So that's a little bump to Eckler. I think we could see some major usage out of him this week. Chargers are already 10.5 point favorites here. It's one of those lower totals, but they are a big favorite, which I do like for running backs here, especially when the top two wide receivers are questionable this week. Great matchup as the Giants. Like I said, they're 8th in DVOA against the pass, but they're 31st in DVOA against the rush. They've allowed the 6th most rushing yards, 8th most receiving yards, and 8th most fantasy points to running backs. And like I said, it's a bump in targets if Keenan Allen and Mike Williams are out, or even just one of them is out this week. Probably going to see 5 to 8 targets for Eckler as well. Could even reach up to that 10 target threshold that we have seen him hit that ceiling game. So it's definitely in play to see that Austin Eckler ceiling game this week. He is very expensive, but there's definitely enough value that we can throw him in there and take that nice floor of raw points from Eckler. Moving on, second up for me is Antonio Gibson, mainly because of the price. After rushing for 88 or more yards or multiple touchdowns in 4 straight, he's seen only a small price increase going into this week, especially on DraftKings. He also has 20-plus fantasy points in 3 of those 4 games, and those games came against Las Vegas, Seattle, Carolina, and Tampa Bay, who ranked 12th, 10th, 20th, and 9th in DVOA against the rush. So 3 of those are very tough matchups. So that's really good to see from Antonio Gibson. He now faces Dallas. They're 19th in DVOA against the rush and 2nd in fantasy points despite being 2nd in fantasy points against the position. They are 19th in DVOA, which I do like. So it's a little bit of mix up, but again, even though it is a bit tougher matchup in terms of fantasy points against the position, the price at 6K is just too much to deny here in one of the highest total games that expected to be close here. So I definitely do like that. And then finally, I think we have to go back to Leonard Fournette here. Tougher matchup against Buffalo. They are 6th in DVOA against the rush and 11th in fantasy points against running back. But it's going to be hard to ignore Fournette, who checks almost every single box. First of all, Buffalo comes in. They got destroyed on Monday night, so they're coming on a short week. New England rushed for 200-plus yards between the 3 running backs. Tampa Bay's home favorites here, highest total on the slate. Since Tampa Bay's Week 9 bye, Fournette has averaged 19.8 touches. That's 12.8 rushing attempts, 7 receptions per game in those 4 games. And in that time, he's averaged 25 DraftKings, 20 FanDuel points per game, and has 77% of the touches in the Tampa Bay backfield. He checks every box outside of the slightly downgraded matchup here. But like I said, they got destroyed by New England's rushing attack on Monday night. I think Tampa Bay can do the same thing here. He's just been getting so many touches that is just awesome safety, especially on FanDuel. His best value is going to be on FanDuel at 7,600, but in play on both sides for me this week. All right, moving over to the wide receiver position. Got 3 here. First up is Mike Evans, highest total game on the slate by 4 points. We just talked about Fournette, but I think we can play multiple Tampa Bay Bucks here, and I don't think we need to play Brady either. I think we can play a running back and a wide receiver. I know the DFSR system generally likes playing two wide receivers, likes pairing Godwin and Evans together a lot of times. For me, they're both in play, but I lean Evans because Godwin and Evans' price are traveling in different directions, especially on DraftKings here. And that extra savings just allows a little bit more flexibility. With Buffalo's top corner out, Tre'Davious White, Taron Johnson is their top corner now. He's rated about 75 on PFF, so well above average, and he runs primarily out of the slot, so he's going to see a lot of Godwin. So that also has me lean a little bit more towards Evans this week. The targets haven't been as consistent as Godwin's, but he does have double-digit targets in 2 of his last 3 games, and both he and Godwin are beasts in the red zone. They've got 15 and 22 targets respectively, which is 2nd and 10th overall in the entire league. Next up, Jarvis Landry for Cleveland. This is more of my top value wide receiver, especially on DraftKings here at 5,400. He's finally started to show some consistency. He's got 8 or more targets and double-digit fantasy points in 2 straight and 3 of his last 5 games. Those 5 games are all without OBJ as well, and he's coming off his first 100-yard game of the season, so he's got some momentum coming into this week. Baltimore is 4th in DVOA against the pass, but have given up the 7th most receiving yards and 14th most fantasy points to wide receivers. So they're giving up a lot of yardage to wide receivers. They're just not giving up a lot of touchdowns. And Landry, I don't think he necessarily needs to get the touchdown to get there in value this week. I think he can get there in his yards and targets, especially on the full PPR format on DraftKings. He's just too cheap for those projected targets and target share in that offense this week. Up next, we got Hunter Renfro. This is the weekly installment of arguably the most consistent fantasy wide receiver in football, at least from a points per dollar standpoint. 100-plus yards in 2 straight, so we've finally seen those ceiling games from Renfro. He's got 9-plus targets in 4 of his last 5, 8-plus targets in 7 of his last 9, 45-plus receiving yards and double-digit fantasy points in 10 of 12 games on the season. Projected high-scoring game with a game script that points toward Las Vegas coming from behind on Kansas City, having to throw a lot, so that is a little bit of a boost as well. The price is coming up, but I'm again not too concerned with the high floor that he provides with the targets that he is getting in the offense. And I do think if Waller does play this week, he is expected back. Still questionable. We're going to have to pay attention to that as lineup lock approaches on Sunday. But I think that would only help Renfro a little bit. Maybe not so much in the total targets, but he's still receiving those 8 to 10 targets every single week with or without Waller. I just think it helps take some coverage away from Renfro as they're really going to have to pay attention to Waller, who is an elite tight end. All right, moving on to the tight end position. I've got a couple for you here. My favorite from a points per dollar perspective is Mark Andrews. Very consistent with 8-plus targets in 5 straight while averaging 11.2 per game in that time. So that is up there in the elite class, especially when talking about tight ends. 50-plus receiving yards in 4 straight games, 44-plus receiving yards in 11 straight games. It's an average matchup, but it's more about the consistent production that he provides at a tier 2 price for cash games. And he also has upside for GPP as well. Up next, the most expensive option at the position, Travis Kelsey here. He's coming off a dud, but I'm not really concerned as he's looked great over the previous 3 weeks before that with 74, 119, and 98 yards respectively. 8-plus targets in 4 straight games and 7 of his last 8. And an elite matchup versus the Raiders, who give up the second most yards and fantasy points to tight end position. Finally, one more Tampa Bay Buck here with Rob Gronkowski. He's been very consistent since the Bucs bye with 8-plus targets in each of those 3 games. He's also tallied 71, 123, and 58 receiving yards in those games. And he's coming off a 2-touchdown game and is averaging 19.1 DK, 15.2 FanDuel points per game in that span since the Bucs bye week. He falls to number 3 just because of the matchup versus Buffalo. They are 5th in fantasy points against tight end. They're really good versus tight ends. All right, so that takes care of my top plays at each position. Before we go here, I want to jump over to the DFSR tools and have a quick look at that. We over here on the FanDuel section here this week, we are on the 12 p.m., that's 1 p.m. Eastern, main slate. So we've got Justin Herbert up here at the top. He is my favorite as of now. Again, like I said, we're going to have to pay attention to the news on Mike Williams and Keenan Allen as the week progresses here. I think Keenan Allen, now that he's been in the COVID-19 protocols here for a few days, is probably more likely to play than Williams. But again, just speculation. So we're going to have to pay attention to that. So let's just go ahead and run a lineup here. Let's just run a straight 50 lineups straight up here on the FanDuel tool and see what we get here on a Wednesday evening. Ran 50. It's going to take a while here, so we will let that generate some of the filters over here. If you are new to the DFSR tools, you can filter by salary, DK points, value. Some of the filters that I really like playing with are down here. High Vegas total, so you can go in and click on that high Vegas total and then choose the number that only the players from that over that total will show up. Okay, so here's our lineup. Right now, Taysom Hill's actually fitting in there. Javonte Williams in a good spot for Denver. Looks like Melvin Gordon could miss. Again, Javonte Williams coming off a beast mode week after finally getting a chance to be the lead back there. CEH, only 30% on CEH, but Keenan Allen's in there right now. So the system believes that the injury is not going to be too much of a concern. We are stacking him with Tyreek Hill, Hunter Renfro, George Kittle, Donta Foreman for Tennessee. That's one that I'm a little speculative on. I'm a little bit more interested in Dontrell Hilliard, who got, I believe, somewhere in the range of 8 to 10 targets last week Tennessee is a favorite here, so they could end up rushing more rather than throwing to the running backs. So that's a situation I'm definitely going to be looking into a little bit more, is that Tennessee running backs. But I'm pretty on par here with what the DFSR FanDuel tools spitting out as of right now. So back over here to the filters on the side. So if you want to go Vegas total and you only want games that are over, say, 46.5, 446.5, let's correct that, 46.5, and we plug that in. Every time you go and turn one of these filters on and set that number, what it does is go up here and just lowers the number of players in your player pool. Another very important filter that you're going to use, especially if you're in GPP formats and running up 50 lineups like I've got right here, is the randomness filter. So if it's set at 0, what you're going to see is obviously the most correlated lineups, not correlated, the highest projected lineups possible. You're going to see players like Tyreek Hill, 92% in there. Keep that in mind for when I run this next one. Javonte Williams, 100%. Taysom Hill, 98. George Kittle, 92. Now, if we take that and we take that randomness up to 100, what that is going to do is just expand our player pool so that in our 50 lineups, we've got more players. So we'll just let that run here for a minute. So now what you see, we've got Tyler Lockett mixed in, Mike Williams, George Kittle went from 92%, I believe, down to 24%. Dante Foreman down to 22%. Javonte Williams was 100%. He's now down to 38%. Patrick Mahomes is fitting in there now. I would imagine Taysom Hill is down somewhere around 5-10%. So it just gives you a mix of more players. So definitely play around with that. Reach out if you've got questions on that. I don't use the randomness for cash games, only for GPPs. But if you got any other questions on any of these filters, want me to do some more videos on the DFSR filters, please let me know in the comments below. As well, I promise that there is going to be another giveaway this week. Chad Eckert, another great Minnesota Vikings fan, won last week, and he actually donated that $50 back. So I'm going to be giving away a $100 Fanatics gift card this week. All you have to do is like this video and comment below with your favorite play of the week. And at the end of Sunday night or Monday morning, I know last week it was a little bit delayed. I'm going to try and do it Sunday Night Football here, probably right around halftime or after the game locks on Sunday night. I will do my random draw. I use a program just grabs all the comments that are there from Instagram posts, Facebook posts, YouTube posts, and randomizes a winner. And then I will DM you, get your email, and send you that $100 Fanatics gift card. Perfect timing before Christmas here. And if you want to get a copy of all of our rankings, like on the sheet here, I have rankings, top 5 to 10 players at each position with notes for the main slate, like I said, and then as well the primetime showdown slates. If you want that, make sure to get over to www.patreon.com/JagerBombs. Get your NFL package today for $10. Or you can head over to DFSR.com and get your package there. You can get all of my sheets as well as access to the tools for NBA, NFL, MLB, NHL, and PGA for just $29.95 a month. We've also got a 7-day free trial and a one-time 5 months, next 5 months for $99. Thanks for tuning in. Good luck this week, and we will see you in the Winning Picks channel on Sunday night.